Welcome to the KBB Review podcast. I'm Andy Davies, and this is the second of our big interview double bill to kick off a new year and a new season. Last week, we heard from Bathroom Brands' Pat Riley, so if you haven't listened to that one yet, highly recommend it. It's really, really insightful. But now we're meeting Dean Weston, the new managing director of one of the biggest names in premium bathroom retail, CP Hart. Now, Dean is a retail guy through and through, with a CV that takes in senior positions at some of the biggest names in home improvement like Magnet, MFI, Allied Carpets, Habitat, Bathstore and SCS. All that means consumers and their shopping habits are in the blood. But what happens when someone with that mass market experience takes the reins of a premium name like CP Hart? We talk about protecting the brand, driving efficiencies, taking over in a difficult market, and much, much more in this very candid and insightful look into a real bellwether retailer. But first, the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards 2026 are fast approaching. We're counting down to March the 2nd at the Hilton Birmingham Metropole. That's the Monday night of the KBB show. And if you haven't booked yet, I genuinely cannot recommend highly enough doing it today to secure your place. If you want to be in the room with hundreds of retailers, designers, suppliers and influencers, then you can buy individual tickets, of course. But if you're planning to host clients or colleagues with a table of 10 to yourselves, you'll need to act very quickly. And that's not just to guarantee availability, it's to start inviting those key contacts now before someone else does. Full details of what, when, where and how much are all at kbbreview.com/awards. That's kbbreview.com/awards. See you there. Here is Dean Weston. Hello, Dean.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you. Just explain to us where we are, because we're not in a normal choir room.
So we're at the Hick Show, obviously catering for the hotel market, and we're here with FEMA, one of our suppliers. We're exclusive with them in the UK.
Because it's obviously one of the things about CP Hart, from our point of view, it's a big premium bathroom retail chain, but obviously retail is only a proportion of what you do. So can you give us a rough idea of how CP Hart splits up in terms of channels?
In its simplest form, we're probably almost 60-40 retail to trade. But then we've got three real categories, which is retail, which is what we're most known for. And we have local trade, so small local developers, but at high end, obviously. And then we have about a third of our business is contracts business, so significant high rise and nice developments like in Hampstead or wherever.
And I suppose when one's up, the other's down, and it's a good way to spread the market around, spread your money around, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Contracts has been in the doldrums for a little while now because of all the stuff ex-Grenfell. So things are tied up in planning for a long time. They've had to make a lot of changes to the design aspect of the buildings, and then after they finally get through planning, then they find they've got to put an extra staircase in. It's not worth the revenue in building it anymore. So the contracts and the market for big developers is quite troublesome at the moment, but green shoots are forming. We're starting to get a lot more inquiries, but that won't really hit our P&L for another 2 years. So we're heavily focused on retail and what we can do now, and the local trade, because that's almost instantaneous business as well.
Okay, so look, you've been with the business 8 months now, so very simple question, but how are you finding it?
I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. It's a much smaller business than I'm used to working in. Normally more national chains, etc. But no, I like it. CP Hart, it's one of those brands. Donkey's years I've been aware of it since I've been in KBB, since I was a kid almost. And I was at Magnet when they bought it first time around 25 years ago or so. So when I saw the job advertised, it was one of those, yes, I'd really like to be part of that. There's not many really nice brands left around that give you that aspiration that you want to be there. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's a good team. Made a few changes to the board, so I've got some experience that's been here for a long time. Rachel, our merchandising director, she knows everything there is to know about bathrooms and all the supply chain, which is fantastic. And then we've got some new blood on sales, which is great, gives you a bit more energy and brings in the impetus to that. So yeah, it's a good mix at the moment, and it's going well. Like I say, for the last 6 months, we've definitely seen good growth from retail and local trade, and contracts is definitely starting to grow a bit more as well.
I hate using the phrase big shoes to fill, but Paul Rowland had obviously been there a very long time. I mean, if you sliced him open, it would say CP Hart. But is it good to have a sort of fresh perspective on it, do you think, rather than trying to just repeat what he was doing? It's
definitely good to have a new perspective, but you can't ignore what Paul achieved. He took this business from 6 or 7 million up to 50 million quid. So fair play to him. And I knew Paul, again, back from my Magnet days. So what he's achieved and how he built this business is fantastic. But there's always room when someone comes in with new ideas to try and bring stuff forward. And sometimes when you've been there that long, you forget about some of the good success. Yeah, there's stuff that I've did 10, 15 years ago that I've completely forgotten about, that at some point it'll reappear in my mind, and we can go forward and make an improvement on that. But yeah, he left a really good business with a lot of good people in it and great supply chain, which is the main thing.
And he'd always be the one looking for new ideas and looking at new perspectives anyway. He was very sort of open-minded about that, wasn't he? It'd be interesting to see where he pops up. He says he's retired. I don't believe it for a second.
Well, I'm amazed he's retiring. And I must admit, I had a couple of conversations in between being offered the job and actually starting. I said, "Are you sure you're actually going to retire?"
He'll turn up somewhere.
Yeah, it's in his, like you say, it's in his blood. He's been in this sector his whole career since man and boy. So yeah, I'm sure he'll appear. And you know what? I'd happily have him back as a consultant or to help me out, because there's just stuff he knows that I'm not aware of yet. So yeah.
So look, you have taken over in a really, really tough trading environment, right? For everybody, and everybody here would say the same thing. Is it good to take over when the market's at the bottom because there's only one way to go, or is it you're chucking yourself in at the deep end with a really difficult task to do?
I'd say both, if I'm honest. If my boss is listening at Wolseley, I'd say it's a terrible time and the market's rough. But the market is one of the big quotes from the MD of Magnet about 20 years ago was just the market is what the market is. So we can only do so much, and people are spending with our competitors. So we need to try and get that business and take it into our business. As simple as that. We can always do more. Everywhere we retail, it's not about just work rate. It's about being smart about what you're doing and managing your discount and your model and your costs, etc. But yeah, it's not a great time, that's for certain. Even at our very sort of tight niche of the market where we're dealing with the very wealthy individuals, we are having to work harder, that's for certain. Even in the late months I've been here, I've noticed that it's got tougher over the last couple of months. So yeah, we just got to keep pushing forward.
Because obviously you're the new boss at CP Hart, but also CP Hart has a new owner as well. It's gone to Wolseley. It has been owned by big corporate organisations before, like you say, Nobby owned it before it went to Charco. To be part of a big corporate organisation like that for what is a very premium, very niche retailer, what are the pros and cons of that?
Well, it's not a natural fit, that's for certain. Wolseley are a machine, £1.5 billion and heavily into renewables and trade counters. We're not a natural fit for them, but I have to say I had that concern when it popped up. First, CP Hart, wow, right, I want that. And secondly, we're owned by Wolseley. And I had experience of Wolseley from taking that through private equity with Bathstore many years ago. So it's sort of gone full circle. But they are really supportive. I've got a great handler at Wolseley. We're left to be autonomous most of the time. You have to conform, but there's benefits of owning all our centralised HR function. We don't pay for that. It's not on our P&L anymore, yet we're getting full service. But they're a good owner. They're owned by PE now, so that's probably a little bit different from when they're a PLC. But yeah, they are very supportive. Whether or not that, we stay in the stable, because ultimately they'll get sold and that might change the mix of what happens to us. I'd love to take this business on myself, but let's see what happens in the future. But for now, no issues at all, genuinely.
Because I was surprised when they bought it. Because as you say, A, it's not a natural fit, but B, it was like, what's in it for them? I don't know what's in it for them with the kind of numbers that they usually deal with. I just don't know what's in it for them. But is it a prestige thing? Well, what is it?
Well, I think they definitely like the prestige of it, and why wouldn't they? It's something to be really proud of as a brand. There's not many brands in our sector that echo as much as CP Hart does. But they've actually got 7 sort of subsidiary businesses similar to us, some aircon businesses, and they've got Ideal Bathrooms, this big distributor. So they're all managed by one person in Wolseley that I report to, Roger Connett. And I think it was just about they got to a point with their core business of we're into everything. How do we now sort of make a quantum leap and start getting some more revenue elsewhere? So I think good plan at the time. I think out of the 7 businesses they got, 6 of them are trading particularly well. 1's okay. So they're all adding something to the pot. So I'm not sure if it's they haven't bought anything recently, but that's not to say they won't go again. But they're owned by a big PE now, which is CD and RO Morrison's, etc. So they've got deep pockets if they want to start spreading out.
Your own personal background is a sort of corporate thing, and as you said, you were with Bathstore, you were with Magnet, you were with SCS. What does that bring to a premium retailer like CP Hart? Because some people who might have sort of looked at your CV and gone, he's going to come in here and turn this into Bathstore or whatever. I'm sure those fears are ungrounded, but there must have been a concern of yours that people might think that.
Well, yeah, firstly, it does matter what people think. So, yeah, you want to make sure you're doing a job. Obviously, CP Hart is so well known. It's on my mind every day how we protect the brand. And we have a lot of offers just pop up on email that everyone wants to be a partner and get involved with us. And we can talk in a little while about some of the partner models we're introducing. But, protecting the brand is our number one priority. But for me, even when I was at MFI, we bought German kitchens, we bought Nobilia into the UK for the very first time, apart from one store it had in Manchester. And we were suddenly selling 45k kitchens at MFI, which was unheard of at the time. So, stretching that envelope of my skill set and being self-employed when I left school, making kitchens and bedrooms to where we are now is a bit of, a full circle, really. I think I've been through big businesses, small businesses, bottom end, SCS, trading at the bottom end of the furniture market, through to CPR at the premium end of that market. So I've got good experience and I enjoy it, but it's a lot nicer to be at this end of the market, that's for certain, especially in this economy.
And obviously Paul Rowland came from Magnet, didn't he? So he'd come from that too. What can you bring with all that experience to something like CP Hart? Because yes, it's an incredibly premium niche retailer, but you've still got to make money, you've still got to have the efficiencies, you've still got to run it in an efficient, cost-effective way. Where does the Venn diagram sit?
Yeah, so I think the skill set overlap, or what was needed at CP Hart, is a little bit more impetus. We had some arrogance, I would say, inside the business of where CP Hart, Mrs. Jones is going to buy it for us for CP, or she's not actually. She's in she's in West One this afternoon getting a quote from them. But we would sit back. So we bought some lead management stuff into the business straight away. New CRM goes live this month. So I think that sort of force of pace and actually following up on real basic lead management, which you really desperately need in mass market like Bathstore, has definitely come in. And a bit more speed and innovation around customer service. Again, we were a little bit arrogant that, these things happen. Well, they don't happen. We've had a big dust up with one of our key suppliers already and exited them from the business because their attitude to a customer that spent 80k on his ensuite bathroom didn't match our expectations. So we have to make sure we've got to do the right thing and stand by our customers. And some of these suppliers had that same arrogance about, well, we're X brand. Obviously, I won't name them. But, you get what you get kind of thing because that's the price of dealing with us. Well, no, there's a customer at the end of this. So, again, I'm not criticising Paul in any way. I just think he's looking through something with a different lens and asking some different questions. We weren't strong on analytics, for instance. So it's all right saying, we've got an order book of X. Well, when's it going to be delivered? What's holding it up? Who's our slowest provider? So we can get the stuff out of the book and turn it into P&L cash kind of thing.
I think what's interesting about your CV and where the overlap is that they're all the brands that you've worked on, MFI, Bathstore, SCS, all these guys, they're very clearly defined brands. You know exactly who the audience is for that. And I think that's one of the things that CP Hart has. It's very clear who the customer is. Retail, if it goes awry, or it's usually because they've forgotten who the customer was, or they're trying to spread the customer out too widely. So that demographic has been important throughout all of your jobs.
Yes, absolutely spot on. And here, like you say, we've got a very narrow remit of a certain type of customer in a certain location. And whilst you want to try and bust out of London with the brand, you have to be very careful because we haven't got that awareness that we enjoy in London, and the benefit of Waterloo, which is, whether we win awards or not, is the best showroom in bloody UK for bathrooms, that's for certain. But we won't have that to rely on. And this is what our guy in the Wilmslow store is up against. We've got the CP Hart, well, this is who we are. But in Wilmslow, not many people know it, so we're relying on the team there to do it. But yeah, it's a beautiful brand if you know it, kind of thing.
You talked a little bit about the sort of short-term things that are going on, but what are your medium and long-term plans for it? Where do you want to take it in the next 3-5 years?
Well, contracts, we're definitely expanding the team. I mean, we've seen some good work on that, and at the moment there are no 4- and 5-star hotels being built in central London, but that will return. It's cyclical, and London's one of the foremost cities in the world for that kind of hospitality. So hence Hicks visit today. High-rise will come back again once all the Grenfell planning issues get sorted. So I think contracts is going to be a big area of growth. Retail, we've got some good opportunities on for definite, and we want to expand our store network. We're moving our Chiswick store. Currently, we've just opened a new store in Hatch End, a nice affluent area. I think we can probably get another 4 or 5 stores in central London, and then we're at sort of saturation for travel time. Islington would be great for us, so we can find a spot. But it's finding the right spot and the right type of frontage in the right location, because there are these densities of rich customers, but they are very tight areas. So we're definitely opening more stores, and then we're just starting on this partnership journey with our own brand, brassware and some furniture, whereby through Ideal Bathrooms, is part of the Wolseley Group, they've got something like 2,500 customers on their books. We've been through every single one of those, looking at finances, which other brands they sell, demographics, etc. We've whittled it down to about 40 that we actually would like to deal with the CP Hart brand. And we've got a lot of meetings, got about 20 guys signed up currently, or about 20 showrooms, I think 17 businesses signed up that are going to start selling CP Hart branded brassware and furniture in their stores early part of next year. Stock arrives imminently. We're helping them do showroom displays. So it's another brand for them. It's good quality, high value, good brand. And I think that'll work well. And that'll get us out there. I've got some scars on my back from franchising at Bathstore, so I'm not keen on that model just yet. But if you get the right franchise partner, however, like Ripple seem to be doing really well, then fair play. Whereas, when we were at Bathstore, we started with 29 franchisees, and some of them, their last franchise was a Domino's pizza. So why? We just took them because they had the cash, and we shouldn't have done. And I'll take that on the chin. We wanted to expand, and we did it the wrong way. But you need the right people in this game. This is a consultative sell.
I mean, look, the hard part in any multiple retail business is maintaining the quality, maintaining the brand vision, the wider you go. It's always the downfall of multiple retailers in this sector, particularly if you're offering some kind of installation model as well. It's just so difficult to maintain the quality all the way through. And particularly with a brand like CP Hart, you can expand the network, as you say, but keeping that CP Hartness of the whole thing really hard.
No, it is ultra difficult, and hence why out of 2,500 potentials, not dismissing anyone's business model, because if they're making money, good luck to them in this market. I love this industry and the people that are in it, but if they're going to have CP Hart somewhere in their showroom as a brand, then they need to be the best of the best. And they are out there. You've got Obsidian Interiors in Cheltenham and places like that, which are fantastic showroom, fantastic people, and a place where you could say, yes, not with an arrogant way of saying it, but saying they could definitely sell the CP Hart brand and protect it for us, because we're not going to be there every day. Whereas, you go into some independents and they've got boxes stacked in the middle of the displays, and they're rushing in and out trying to do surveys themselves. That's not our brand. We can't play in that market or risk that brand damage.
So in terms of the retail bit of things, what are you doing to keep that quality high? How do you hire the right people? How do you train the right people? When they're going off to Cheshire somewhere, how do you know that they are going to be CP Harting the hell out of Cheshire?
Well, it's sort of new to me. Like I say, I've only been here eight months, but historically, we pay slightly above market rate, so we get good people and we keep good people, which is important. We have designers earning very good money, but they're doing a great job for us, and why shouldn't we reward them well? I've come through those ranks myself of being on sale, so you need to find the right buttons to motivate people to stay in their business. But it is a people business. This is a consultative sale, and at the sorry end of Bathstore, when we did the MBO to the wrong partner, and they put a guy in there from B&Q. Now, B&Q executives are great at running B&Qs, but they expect someone to walk to the till and say, can I have this 15 grand bathroom, please? Well, that's not how it works. You've got 6 months of flirtating back and forth and, getting that customer to the right point with the right design and closing the deal. And a consultative sale and choosing the right people is absolutely paramount. People are definitely the core, and I know this sounds almost like a cliche now, but the core of CPI is its people, internally and externally. We've got some fantastic partners, and they are so supportive of us, it's untrue, and we have to reciprocate that favour and make sure, we treat everyone fairly, etc. They all get their space in the stores, but colleagues inside the stores is absolutely paramount. And when you look at the P&L and you think, the old wage bill is a bit high, but you get what you pay for, unfortunately, because it is a migratory business, and I'm sure you've met people in different locations many times, as have I. We can all say, I've worked with that person there and there, but we want people to stay at CP Hart. The thing I've learned a part of my career jumping from, around a lot of turnaround businesses, that unfortunately during turnaround, you normally lose the good people first because they're very nervous and they go, and you can't replace experience, good or bad. Even if they've got an indifferent personality, they know stuff, and they know stuff that you need to know. So we want to try and hang on to people as much as we can. We are seeing a difficult time of recruiting at the moment because of we go through Wolseley. So some of our ads that go out as come and work at Wolseley as a designer at CP Hart, we need to start, but they're things we can refine and get our own brand on it. We use a couple of agencies, but we get probably half a dozen CVs coming in every week anyway from our competitors, etc., wanting to join us. So it's just picking the right ones.
Do you think this industry understands what luxury actually is?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a bit of a deep one.
It is, because it's a word, it's like bespoke. It's kind of a word that doesn't really have a definition. And I think sometimes people would describe themselves as a luxury retailer or a premium retailer without really having a definition in their head of what that means. Because if I come and buy a bathroom from CP Hart, I'm buying an experience, I suppose, aren't I? How do you define it? How does it sit in your head?
well, to that point, you're buying an experience. If a visit to Waterloo is an experience in itself, and we will spend the time with you properly. It's not a rush transaction, and what I'm trying to make sure the team do now is pretty fundamental salesmanship in qualifying a customer first. But it's not about qualifying are they fit to buy from CPI. It's about saying, why are you buying a bathroom? What do you want? Too many times I see salespeople that they rush to get a design done that's $8,000. Well, they don't know if the customer's got $4,000 to spend or $20,000 to spend, or if that's actually what they want. They rush through and here is a bathroom. It's my bathroom as a designer rather than your bathroom as a customer. So I think with luxury, it's hard to define other than the strength of your supply chain, really. I went to Dornbrack's factory last week, and they're a big supplier for us, and their stuff is amazing. But knowing how they can bend a square pipe over it to make a complete right angle without distorting it, and you think that's where your money goes, because you see this machine is bending it ever so slowly over 24 hours. Everyone else does a cut and weld joint, and it's a lot easier to do, but it's not in one piece of metal anymore, and it's a point of failure, and it's it's not so well finished, etc. So it's about the strength of your products, but definitely how you treat those customers on the. It should be an enjoyable experience. You're spending a lot of money on something that's going to be in your home 15, 20 years. It's not just about waltzing into a showroom and getting it, but some people want that experience. It's a transaction for them, but not for our
And I think sometimes it's one of the reasons why AI will never take over, because sometimes you just know it when you see it. You know it when you feel it. You've had that experience, and you can't really explain why. You just know you've had it.
It's a lot of tiny, meaningful things. Sounding like a talker on the circuit, a speaker on the circuit. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the journey. The type of quality you give them. Is the mug chipped? Is it in a nice cup and saucer? Do you have nice bottled water for the presentation? You sit at a nice desk and you're comfortable sitting there for 2 hours having your dinner. It's not one thing that you go through. It's the whole experience. And if you're lucky enough to go to a Bentley showroom, you're in a Bentley showroom rather than a Toyota showroom. But the same thing applies. If you've got $12,000, buy a Toyota. If you've got $120,000, you buy a Bentley.
That's what happens if you're on CP Hart. You go to Bentley showroom.
No, Toyota, trust me. Working for Wolseley.
So look, let's round this off. What's your sort of view of 2026 looking like, do you think, for this market? Yeah,
I'm very optimistic for 26. We're definitely seeing some green shoots, and the Mayor is making the right noise, the Mayor of London, about planning for Grenfell. And some of these companies have been in planning for like 22 months. And they've got a lot of money tied up in the ground. So, you see some big, massive contract business having their credit insurance pulled. You think, how is that even possible? You see their developments all over London, but because it's all tied up in money in the ground. So I think we should hit the ground running with winter sale. We're still, even though we're at premium, and I know there's been a lot of commentary on LinkedIn recently about should we be promoting or not, is it the right thing to do? We still have a promotion, and we still see a rise in footfall when we have a promotion. It's a British psyche. I was at MFI when our chairman, which I didn't agree with at the time, took us off of, went to EDLP for the winter sale. That was on Boxing Day. And I think before the 3rd of January, we had posters back up in the window everywhere because it was just a disaster. And, the British psyche is they want a deal. And yes, of course, whatever sector of demographic you're in, you still want to see, you still want to know there's something for you in it and get some value.
I think the issue is, and you must have dealt with this a lot at SCS or whatever, there's a permanent sale on, and all you're really doing is sort of changing the posters, and then it becomes, is it really a sale or isn't it? And that was always an eternal debate about MFI or Bathstore or any of those kind of guys, is what does a real sale look like? Whereas at CPR there is a
sale, it's clearly defined, and it's only on for about, I think it was 6 weeks in January. It's not really our core base. They're not coming in for that, but there are those people that are just getting into market that can be tempted to come in now rather than wait another 6 months.
My experience is that people with the money look after their money much more than the people who don't have any money.
Yeah, everyone wants something. There is always what's in it for me, and as we said with the Bentley and Toyota analogy, it's about value. A Toyota is a fantastic car, and so is the Bentley. But it's how much cash have you got and what you can perceive to be. But yeah, I think look at the outlook for 26. I think I'm hoping. And I know hope is not the strategies I keep telling my team, but we believe that we should be in for a good year next year. I think that all the green shoots seem to be appearing, that's for certain, which is promising.
All right, well, look, that's really promising, really positive of you. Dean, you're doing a fantastic job so far, so thanks for spending us a little bit of time for this.
I appreciate your time.
We'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Nice to see you.